I will proceed to give a general update to reiterate where we are with the implementation of this transformative policy. Again, the system is aimed at addressing the significant inconvenience and danger faced by our children when they travel to and from school, and will also help to address high transportation costs faced by parents, in many times causing them to have to decide which child they send to school on a particular day. Ultimately, the rural school bus system will also assist in reducing the number of times students are absent from school and seeks to improve students' academic performance. 100 safe, secure, and fit-for-purpose buses have been purchased as part of the planned rollout. It's actually 110. 100 will go into the system and 10 will be held back for contingency in order to make sure that we have buses to replace existing buses for whatever reason. I wish to reiterate that the plans for the rollout of the school bus system remain firmly on track for September morning 2025. 26 buses are in Jamaica. 14 additional buses arrived on Saturday of last week. 4 more are en route to Jamaica, and 18 more will be delivered on July 14th, and 28 each will be delivered on the 22nd of July and the 30th and the 29th of July. So, in essence, all 110 school buses will be here by the end of July. Among the batch of buses will be 47 small units, 32-seater, with engines designed to navigate remote areas, 38 mid-sized buses, which have 54 seats, and 25 buses designed to seat 72 people each. So the configuration is 3 different types of buses, obviously because of the assessment of the terrain that we will be traversing. As it pertains to the rural transportation system, I gave a commitment that I will also reiterate. The current activity represents phase 1 of the system. We intend within 2 years to import an additional 200 to 300 buses to serve the additional 625 schools with a student population of over 300,000. It is in the intention of the government to actively pursue the possibility of the introduction of not only refurbished buses, but also new buses, as we are doing for the JUTC. This government and this minister will deliver on his commitment to put in place a safe, affordable, and convenient system which provides quality service to our children and reduces cost to parents. Let me now deal with the criticism, if you want to call it that, from those members of the opposition. The ministry has taken note of the criticisms in the public domain coming from the ranks of the opposition regarding the plans being pursued to deliver a rural school bus system for Jamaica. The buses have been dubbed old by the opposition, who have also alleged that the buses are being brought in to kill off Jamaican picnic. Let me state categorically that July 5th and 6th, 2025 are among the saddest and darkest days in our history based on these wicked, evil statements made particularly by Mark Rowling and Peter Bunting, along with others in their party. It is simply bad mind on steroids. I wish to categorically reject these allegations as false, reckless, and a desperate attempt to use our children to attain power at any and all costs. This must never be forgotten, and they must be judged and rejected out of hand for these wicked and evil thoughts. And a simple press release, which was sent out a few minutes ago ahead of my press conference, will not take them off the hook for this. Concerning the ages of the buses purchased, as we move to roll out the school bus system, let me lay out some facts. I'm advised that the average age of registered motor cars currently in the public transport system in Jamaica is an average of 14 years old. Prior to the recent purchases, the average age of JUTC buses in the fleet was 14 years old. I'm further advised that currently the average age of registered buses in the wider public transport system is 18 years old. And these figures are coming from the ITA and the Transport Authority. So these are legitimate figures and not something that I am just picking out of a hat. The average age of buses being purchased under the Rural Transportation Bus Initiative is 10 years old. Some are below 10 years old, as low as 8 years old. The opposition has described the buses being purchased as old, but suggested that they would pay transport operators, including bus operators, and who they described as a little man with Probox or AR wagon. I assume that he means AD wagon to transport our children. Well, the fact is, the average age of buses and cars in the public transportation system currently is between 14 and 18 years old. It's way above the average age of the buses which are being brought in as part of the rollout of the National Rural School Bus. Furthermore, the buses under the Rural School Bus system generally have way less mileage and a better maintenance history compared to what exists in the wider registered public transportation system. The average mileage on the buses being brought in is approximately 135,000 miles, with some having as low as 70,000 miles. The comments from the opposition and the data I have outlined confirms that the opposition objection to the rural school bus system is not based on principle. What is very clear in my mind, and should be to all Jamaica, is that the People's National Party will once again discontinue the rural school bus system if given the opportunity by the people of Jamaica. Their comments represent another sign of their vulgar, opportunistic, and unhelpful habit of seeking to tear down any plan put forward by government to respond to the challenges being faced by the Jamaican people. The data I just outlined also confirms that the opposition description of buses being purchased under the rural school bus system as old buses unworthy of transporting our children is unprincipled, dishonest, and should be firmly rejected. In light of the untruthful and very unfortunate comments made by the opposition, we seek to raise doubt about the safety of the buses purchased under the rural school bus transportation system. I will now address that issue. The suggestion that discarded previously immobile buses were purchased are false. The buses purchased have at least 80% of their mechanical life left and are fully functional, which you will see after this press conference. The question is being asked, why the USA system, transport system? Preference for the purchase of the American school buses is not arbitrary. They are widely considered the gold standard in transportation of children globally. This is because the buses in the American system have a robust combination of safety, reliability, advanced technology, and an attractive total cost of ownership. The buses which we use under the rural school bus system in Jamaica will have unparalleled protection for children and adult passengers alike. Additionally, it is important to note that the rural school bus program has a dedicated JUTC team that inspects the school buses purchased from America to ensure their safety, reliability, comfort, and annual maintenance cost. So let me just make that clear. We did not buy buses based on pictures. We sent a team from the JUTC along with the supplier to go and inspect and select the buses that we deemed and sought suitable for Jamaica. Therefore, the units are inspected by both overseas and local experts, whose confirmation of them meeting the required standard is obtained prior to the admission of a bus to our fleet. Our children's safety is our #1 priority. This is why the Jamaica Rural School Bus Program is utilizing the gold standard of American-made school buses. Of interest might be the fact that our Jamaican specification strictly provides for the purchase of world-renowned Cummins diesel engines and Allison transmissions. This is widely regarded as among the most dependable powertrain in school systems operated across the globe. These Cummins diesel engines and Allison transmissions are designed to last up to 300 to 500,000 miles. And this is not me saying it. I think we have the information to share on the screen. The buses that we are bringing to Jamaica have an average of 135,000 miles or fewer. Hence, this would give us service to our students for easily another 10 to 15 years prior to having to do any major overhaul on these bus engines and transmissions. This is why I say, without fear of contradiction, that it is not only good for the safety, but it is indeed excellent value for money. I'll come to that later. $1.4 billion is the cost to buy these buses, pay inland freight, sea freight to get them to Jamaica, to retrofit them with the doors, refurbish them where needed, 1 year of spare parts, 1 year of a maintenance contract with the supplier to service the buses as was being done through the Department of Transport in the United States of America. It will also have the technology that is going to be required to make sure that the children are safe and that we can see them from the Ministry of Education, and also the parents can track the children through the technology. That includes even the driver. There's a specific camera that is focused on the driver to make sure that he is conducting himself in a way that is suitable to transport children, along with a cashless fare system where the students will swipe a card on entry and swipe a card on exit, allowing for the schools to know which children are on which bus and parents to also know which children or which of their children is on which bus. I cannot think of anything more that we could do to make sure that we tick all the boxes for this transformative policy. When you compare that, coincidentally, the cost that I just outlined to you of $1.4 billion is the cost for what the opposition is proposing to give $2,500 per family to 20,000 families per year. Comes out at exactly the same cost. And I ask you, Jamaica, to do your own comparison. I won't even get into it because the fact of the matter, it makes no sense and it doesn't treat with what we are trying to do to make our children safe. So it is, as they say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. They are absolutely reproducing and tweaking the same exact system that obtains now without treating the ills of the existing policy. The opposition has also raised issues concerning salt and corrosion of the buses. The buses are rigorously inspected for defects prior to being approved, and no unit with a defect is approved for importation to Jamaica. It must also be noted that the rural school bus system will be equipped with the Thomas-built and Bluebird school buses, which are among the most desirable school bus brands in North America and other regions. As a testament to trust in relation to the current purchase, Jamaica had to compete with other countries in North and Central America, which also utilize these buses and have indeed made purchases similar to Jamaica. So again, these buses are in demand for other countries, and we were lucky that we were able to secure the 110 out of the buses that were available. The school buses are designed to handle the most rugged driving conditions, whether in Canada, the United States, or the Caribbean. Concerns have been raised about the wiring system and brake lines of the buses. The fact is the buses are thoroughly inspected and approved prior to being brought to Jamaica. And again, let me reiterate, no buses with alleged defects are going to be imported in this program into Jamaica. Additionally, it is important to note, as I said before, the government has a robust parts and maintenance plan designated and designed to maintain the buses while they are in use, and this will be administered by the JUTC. The lies that are being spread about the buses show the desperation of the opposition, particularly given to the fact that they have not requested any information from myself or the ministry regarding the buses. So again, Jamaica, I say to you that if they had a real, genuine interest in collaborating with the government in the interest of rural folks, parents and teachers and students, they ask me for information about my portfolio responsibilities almost daily on WhatsApp, and I provide it to them. So the fact that they have not contacted me or communicated with me formally or informally speaks loudly to the fact that they are bad-minding this policy from day one, and it must not be allowed. Let me give some further comments on safety. Let me remind you that the buses are manufactured in accordance with the safety specifications of the U.S. Department of State, and they undergo a rigorous maintenance and inspection regime before and after arriving in Jamaica. The safety of our students is paramount. Consequently, upon arrival, each bus undergoes a comprehensive inspection and fitness testing consistent with international best practices. They will be serviced regularly to ensure continued reliability. Let me pause again and say that the bus that I brought to Jamaica as a private initiative for the Portland school children has been operating for 9 weeks straight without any form of disruption due to the stringent policies that we have put in place. It has transported thousands of students during that period, and we have not had one incident, neither safety or mechanical or anything else. So we have a bus that is here. We will be taking these buses on all of the routes that have been, Mr. True spoke about, between now and the end of July. They will be going through every parish, every township, and every district and community that they are assigned to make sure that we can do what we need to do to tweak to make sure September morning is seamless. And the ignorance about terrain. The 52 states in the United States have higher hills and valleys and terrain similar to Jamaica. So anything that it can do in the United States of America, it can do in Jamaica. The other ignorant statement about the length of the bus is no different to what obtains in Jamaica with the trucks and the other buses and all that we have. Everything that we are doing is well thought out. We know the specifications and sizes, so we know which routes to put them on. The bigger buses will deal with the major thoroughfares. The smaller ones will go into the interior, hence why you have almost 50% of the 110 buses being the 32-seaters. This is something that JUTC and Ministry of Education and the Ministry have gone through with a fine-tooth comb. The buses will include modern features such as GPS, tracking accessible by parents, speed limiters to make sure that the bus cannot go past a certain speed, onboard surveillance cameras, geofencing to make sure that the buses do not come off of the designated routes, and a cashless payment system, which I spoke about, all designed to enhance security and convenience for both students and parents in rural Jamaica. The rural school bus will not only be affordable, but will provide safety and security for our nation's children. I've already indicated that the cost per trip is 50 Jamaican dollars per child per trip, 100 Jamaican dollars per child per day for the school bus service. Currently, it is anywhere between $300 and $600 per day per child. So one household who has 3 to 6 children, who is unable to send all of them to school because of financial constraints, will be able to spend $100 per day for each of those students, for those kids, and be able to send them to school. Unlike the opposition's so-called RIDE program, which was introduced or tried to be introduced, the rural school bus system has safety and security and convenience as its priority. The current transportation system as it relates to school children is unfair and inequitable. And currently, adults pay higher fares than schoolers in the public transportation system, which is specified in their licenses. However, the reality is that it is not equitable, because obviously they are going to lean towards carrying the higher fare at the risk of disadvantaging the school children. So that is simply the reason why the call and the cry every morning is no schoolers. The government is mindful of this to the public transport operators. We are partnering with them to allow for them to be able to earn maximum. The opposition is trying to put a divide between the transport operators and the government. It's nonsensical, because the fact of the matter is that you have not heard one cry from any public passenger association or even the operators themselves, because they live it, they know it. And the fact is, if I can take off 28,000 students off of their routes so that they can take that much more adults paying full fare, then it is a win-win for both the government, the transport operators, the parents, the teachers, and the children. So once again, it is absolute rubbish that they are speaking. I leave the last for best, or the best for last, because I want to, in closing, give you a history of the rural school bus discussion that has been taking place in Jamaica for many years. And to start, I categorically state that the People's National Party has a history of shutting down efforts to implement a rural transportation system. Prior to the meeting office in 2011, the Bruce Golding administration, through Minister Mike Henry, placed an order for 230 buses to implement a rural school bus system. The delivery was spread over 4 years, beginning with a batch of 65 buses in April 2012. Following the general elections in 2011, the PNP assumed office and cancelled the arrangement in place for the 230 buses. Facts. The JUTC had 20 buses operating a pilot of the rural school bus system. The PNP administration shut this program down also in February 2013. Discontinued moves to import the first batch of 65 buses into Jamaica. These buses were to be part of the rural school bus system. The move by the PNP to dismantle plans for a rural school bus system spawned the headlines. PNP slammed the proverbial brakes on rural school bus system. I hope headline was also published in the Jamaica Greener, which quoted the then Minister Omar Davis as stating that the project was misguided and unsustainable. 7 months later, in September 2013, 4 Homewood students died and another 22 students were injured in a crash, which the then administration blamed on reckless transport operators. According to statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, between 2012 and this year, 68 children have died due to crashes on the nation's road. During the same time period, 726 children have been injured. Many of the crashes have been attributed to reckless driving. We cannot allow history to keep repeating itself. I urge all well-thinking Jamaicans not to allow the opposition to again derail a well-thought-out program which is intended to bring safety, security, and convenience to our children and reduce cost and peace of mind of our Jamaican families. I have just received a copy of the opposition statement, which was sent out minutes before my press conference, which headlines PNP affirms support for rural transport system for students. However, when I read it, the content of it, it totally goes against what they are saying in the headline. This is not even worth the paper that it is written on, because all that they are doing is try to salvage themselves from their reckless, wicked, and evil wishes and statements over the last few days. I want to say before closing that in this, they have raised the issue that these buses were retired from service in their country of origin because they have aged out of the system and not considered safe and reliable for school children. Here are the facts. The American market benefits from a continuous refresh cycle driven by American federal mandates and initiatives, backed by significant funding like the $5 billion allocated over the last 5 years between 22 and 26 through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which encourages the U.S. school districts to regularly update their fleets. This consistent turnover, while aimed at modernizing domestic transportation, inadvertently ensures a steady and high-quality supply of used school buses entering the secondary and private markets, making them attractive assets for international buyers such as Canada and Jamaica. So again, reiterating that the buses have a lot of life left in them, and not only that, we have the programs to maintain them, similar to what has happened previously when they were being used in the US system. We're adopting that, and I give you my assurance as minister and the administration that I serve that we would never do anything or take any shortcut that would put the children safety and security at risk. You have my word on that. So let me close that the government of Prime Minister Andrew Holness and this Minister of Transport recognizes the fulsome, widespread support being given to this transformative policy and will not be distracted by voices of a few despots seeking power at all costs. We will press ahead with the delivery of a safe, secure, and affordable rural transport system for the rural people of Jamaica while continuing to strengthen the bus system in the Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region. I invite the press to ask questions, and then we will go now to the front of the building to actually examine two of the buses and the features that they have so that the media will be able to give an independent assessment of what they have seen and the questions that they have gotten answered. I want to say in closing, despite the unfortunate weekend that we had, God bless Jamaica. God bless the people of Jamaica. This minister and this government will continue to work in the best interests of the people of Jamaica. God bless you.
Thank you, Minister Baz. We will now open the floor to questions.
I have an engineer here from JUTC, and I have the managing director of JUTC and Mr. Troop, and my ministry officials, and I'm sure that we will be able to answer any questions that are being asked, despite the fact that I think the presentations given so far this morning would have cleared up a lot of the misinformation and the genuine questions and concerns that members of the media and the people of Jamaica would have.
Good morning, Kelisha Williams here from Television Jamaica. Minister, can you say whether or not the buses will be distributed across all parishes, one? And two, I know in some states, in some of the states in the US, after 10 years, the buses are retired, and they cannot pass, for example, in New York, one school district in New York, you cannot pass state safety inspections unless there are major investments in repairs and parts. So can you say whether these buses, there were any major investments made in repairs for these buses?
So all of these buses have been inspected and passed overseas. So we're not buying any buses that require any major investment other than the typical refurbishing and, of course, service to go on the road, oil change, filters, brake pads, that kind of thing. And the fact is that there are different policies, but I think what I read out to you a while ago in terms of why these buses become available for the secondary market is the subsidies that the government of the United States gives to this particular industry to allow for people to refresh and upgrade the buses. So the answer to your question is all of these buses are in working order and certified overseas and in Jamaica by the JUTC. All parishes. Could you put up for me on the screen the allocation of the buses and the schools per parish? Questions? No one here from the Gleaner? Anybody here from the Gleaner?
Yes, sir.
Where is he? Okay, great, man.
I've seen advertisements inviting individuals to make applications for the post of driving these buses. Can you say what the process has been so far in terms of the applications received and the
So I'll ask Mr. Ellington to address that. But I can say that part of the process is to get the drivers from the particular parishes. That's the easiest way to have a seeming and functional access to the buses. On top of which, the drivers will have to go through background checks by the police to make sure that they have a clean police record, and they will be trained specifically on these buses on the routes that they are going to be traversing. So, very good question. And the fact of the matter is, I'll ask Mr. Ellington to just indicate what has been the response, and of course, what is the next steps in terms of getting the training completed and
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, everyone. In relation to the recruitment and training of drivers for the rural school bus system, we did put ads in the media. We have had a good set of responses. We are at the stage now where we're doing pre-selection, and we are having the applicants vetted by the Jamaica Constabulary Force to ensure that they are persons in whose custody we can entrust the safety of our children. And based on the planning that we have in place, we should start training no later than Friday of this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ellington. And for those who might not remember, his new position is Managing Director of the JUTC, but he was also former Commissioner of Police. Yes, Mr. Mahir. Turn on the microphone. David, where's the information for Portland?
So one of the main criticisms from the opposition is that they want to put that money in terms of their transport plan into the pockets of the taxi drivers and the bus drivers. What's in it in this program for the drivers that will be piloting these buses?
No, the drivers that will be hired by the JUTC?
Correct.
What is in it?
In terms of pay, in terms of
So they will be dealt with similar to what obtains in the JUTC now in terms of allowances, salary, traveling, whatever it is that is existing for the JUTC will be transitioned to the school bus system because it falls under the remit of the JUTC. So the fact of the matter is that it will be similar to what obtains as you take a JUTC bus now and a driver is driving you. Uniform, everything that goes with it. And another important thing to just mention again, as you say that, is that the bus is an extension of the school. So the school rules apply to the bus as well in terms of discipline, etc., etc. So that's also very important to highlight.
Right, and Minister, can you give us some feedback in terms of the schools that have gotten a taste of this program through the pilot program? What's the feedback like from the principals?
Overwhelming. I can speak firsthand because obviously the one bus that is actually working is in Portland. And the fact of the matter is that the children are happy, the parents are happy, the teachers are happy, the communities are happy, and the fact is that it's working seamlessly. So in essence, the policy is driven by the ministry, the operations are driven by the JUTC, and of course, the selection of schools and all of the interactions with the schools and the regions is handled through the Ministry of Education. So we have a working team, and everybody has their own specific responsibilities. So the selection of the schools and the routes and all of that would be done by the Ministry of Education solely.
Morning, Minister. Hal Sheinberg, Radio Jamaica News. Two questions. In terms of the orientation of the bus, questions were raised about the driver being on the left-hand side, what's being done to deal with that situation, as well as how does it fit within the policy of the government and the state-run bus company to move away from ICE to, natural gas and all that sort of thing. How does that fit?
So we have treated this situation as a national emergency. I couldn't make another September morning go without having some school buses in the system. That's a commitment I made in 2023 when I became Transport Minister. So the selection of these buses are based on the timelines that we needed to meet and to make sure that what we got was in line with international standards. The policy remains that we want to move away from diesel to CNG. The last set of buses are CNG. Now that we have gotten these 110 buses into the system, we have time to plan and prepare and to do our research, wider research, as to where can we get buses that meet our policy requirements going forward. And that is a commitment that I give to the people of Jamaica, that we are going to look at all the jurisdictions, look at obtains, look what is being used, and see what we can find to fit for the second phase and third phase, which is the additional buses that are going to be needed for the school bus. So I rule out nothing. I rule out nothing at this point. What I can say, and I have no apology for, is that what we are introducing in September was a national emergency that could not take any more time. So it may not be the ideal, but it meets and ticks off all the boxes, and now the team will continue to look as to what happens for the next round of school buses. That's a commitment.
In terms of driver orientation and access?
Yeah, so left-hand drive is not ideal. We're moving the doors, obviously, as indicated, because obviously the doors are on the wrong side. We did that for the bus in Portland. The driver in Portland has been trained. No major issue in terms of any issues in relation to the bus and the left-hand drive. As a matter of fact, as I said before, the buses will have on governors for speed, and basically we just have to hope and pray that we can continue with a safe and secure school bus system, because obviously there are other elements that we have no control over. Yes, the school bus, or any vehicle for that matter, doesn't necessarily have to be the driver's fault of the bus. It can be other drivers, and it ends up in a situation that is not good as it relates to accidents, etc. So what I would want to do is to put some positive energy in the air rather than the negative energy that is surrounding this school bus system as of right now. What we need is every well-thinking Jamaican to just pray and hope that we can meet and do what we have committed to do in a safe and timely manner.
Minister, we have two questions from our online viewers. The first, the timing of the buses coincides with an election. Are you only now concerned about this as a rural MP?
I'm glad that that politician raised that question. Can you please put up my article in 2014 when I was an opposition spokesperson, where I raised the issue of rural school buses as a rural MP? It is in the press kits, I know, but I want to answer it and answer it clearly. You have a copy of one in the press kit? Bring it for me, please. So sad that everything in Jamaica is politics. Not even the children get a break from the politics. I was thinking this morning that the only thing I can say at this point, after asking the opposition to not politicize this, is to hop off of the people in school bus. Sunday, August 31st, 2014. Driver, rural commuters, driving rural commuters over a cliff. 2014. Article written and published in my favorite newspaper, The Gleaner. 2014. Okay? So that finishes the argument. This is something that I made a commitment from when I became Minister of Transport, and I have delivered it in less than 2 years as being Transport Minister. Something that I will be forever proud of and will be my legacy when I go off into the sunset. I encourage everybody to look up this article and read it, because it's coming from the heart and the soul of a rural MP, a well-thinking rural MP. And I cannot believe, to be honest with you, that some of the rural MPs that I hear, who represent the same people that I represent in Portland, can be speaking, knowing the facts, knowing and living it with their constituents, and for political power are prepared to prostitute themselves. Sickening.
The second question, Minister, is a two-part.
Bring some water for me, make me cool off here. This thing really get me, trust me, get me miserable, man.
Despite comments that these buses will kill the children, some schools like Monroe and Hampton have already used these buses. Did you factor that in? And also, will teachers and school workers be allowed on the buses?
So that is a decision the Ministry of Education is going to have to take. What is definitive is that these school buses are going to need monitoring by wardens or whoever. And the fact of the matter is that from the ministry's standpoint, we have no objection if it is that the Ministry of Education decides to allow teachers who live in the same communities, etc., because that's also a second way of making sure that the discipline and all that needs to be done is on the buses. And you said about the buses, they are private operators who operate buses through the Ministry of Education, and I have told Mr. Troop, let us sit with them. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting today with one of the major ones to find out a way to make sure that they are aware of our plans and how they can be fitted in relation to the routes that they may be existingly doing now, and routes that will not be served in this phase, whether or not we can move them out into that. But it's not the intention of the government or this minister or this ministry to disadvantage any existing operator for the offering services, private services to school children.
If there are no more questions, we thank you for your time. We'll go outside for the viewing of the bus.
Thank you very much again for all you attending, and we look forward to going out and seeing the bus and taking a drive.